Number, as you know, is 0871 990 3399. And don't forget our website, which is www.chaiwithritu.com. Now, before we launch into the subject today, I actually want to make an announcement for a program that we're going to host, a special program. And what I want to do is showcase the British Indian youths and, in fact, the public generally, as far as the kind of talent we have in singing, in dancing, in rapping, in anything you have. If you think you've got a special talent or you won an award of some sort and you want to share it with our viewers, and there's plenty of those here, what I'd like you to do is to go onto my website, which is www.chaiwithritu.com. Go onto that website, tell me what your achievement's been, and then I shall tell you exactly where you should send your DVDs or whatever you have, but it has to be done very urgently because I want to do this by Christmas, and it's going to be a first of its type. So if you know anyone or are privileged enough to be talented in this field, then please go onto the website. Okay, as far as today's show is concerned, which we are going to have a very exciting show because we've got 3 guests today, and what we're discussing is the children of the immigrants. That is the second generation of children who have been born in this country. Are they carving their own identity, which is quite different to the one that was carved by their parents or their grandparents, and possibly by the future generations? Now, I have 3 youths to discuss this today. The first is Varun Barnott, who will join us later. He's here on a special project, so we will hear from him later. And with me now is Shaunak Upadhyay. Shaunak Upadhyay, welcome. You are on the committee of the Finance Committee of the National Hindu... Yeah, that's right, National Hindu Students Forum. So welcome to the show. And also with us is Tara Sura. Tara Sura, you are an A-level student. Yeah, that's right. And you're here to discuss basically your experience as a youth and hopefully depicting something that is actually an experience by a lot of people in your generation. Okay, welcome to the show. Now, first of all, Shaunak, just tell us a bit about yourself. You're 19 years of age.
I'm 19 years of age. I'm studying at City University in London. I'm doing a degree in air transport studies. I'm in my 2nd year at the moment.
Right. And as far as your involvement in the National Hindu Students Forum is concerned, what is it that you actually do there?
Okay, well, I'm on my official role is actually on the finance team for the National Hindu Students Forum. But we actually cover, loads of different departments. We're always helping out with different events.
Right.
So my main job actually, currently we're just working on sponsorship for NHSF. So we're trying to bring in funds to sort of fund our events because we're a non-profit organisation.
Okay.
And we don't have any sort of input of funds in there. We don't have a regular source of income. So we're trying to raise sponsorship for our events.
Okay. And when was the forum set up?
Okay, the forum was set up 15 years ago. This year is our 15th anniversary.
Okay.
And it was set up back 15 years ago, and it was about it was just trying to create the home away from home for Hindu students because there was nothing of its kind at the time.
And what kind of people join the society?
We've got loads of different sort of big variety of students. The majority obviously being Hindu. There's a lot of Sikh students joining as well. Right. And there's a lot of other religions. The students tend to join just because they like the events. They want to come along and help out.
Okay, and would there be other societies? Would there be a Christian society or a Judaism or a Muslim or Sikh?
Okay, from what I understand, at university level, which is called chapter level, there's actually societies in so many different things. Pretty much every religion is covered there, and there's a society for each one. Nationally, like we have the National Hindu Students Forum, from what I'm aware, there is actually other bodies like that, for the Christian religion, for Muslims, Sikhs. And I think it is really important that they are there because it's sort of bringing everyone together in that division.
Is it a religious organisation at all?
It is religious, yeah. We try to promote Hindu Dharma, our religion, and get our members. We try to teach them so they can learn about their own culture.
And tell me, do you think that this phrase, you can't be religious and be westernised at the same time, is it a true statement to make?
I think I would disagree with that.
Right.
As you can see, if you came to one of our events, we have such a variety of different students there. Most of us are actually born and brought up in Britain. We're still true to our culture and our roots, and we actually practice it every day.
Right. So you can be religious.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
And you can integrate.
That's right. Yeah.
So you think you can have the best of both.
Yeah.
and the statement that you're either religious or you're westernized, you think is not true.
I disagree with that. Yeah, I think you can be westernized and be religious as well at the same time.
Okay, well, we'll come back onto that, and if our viewers have any views on that, please ring 0871 990 3399. We'll take your calls after the first break. But introducing Tara, now you just tell us a bit about yourself, tell our viewers.
I'm a A-level student. I'm university at the moment.
Okay.
I'm doing my A-levels and I'm off to university next year, hopefully.
Right. And which university do you hope to go to?
They're all London-based.
Mm-hmm.
I've applied to anyway, UCL, LSE,
Right.
City, later on, and Bristol. That's the only one out of London, actually.
Okay. And would your parents be disappointed if you didn't go to university?
Well, I wasn't planning to go to university first. I wanted to do a gap year. I think the biggest thing in a gap year, which parents are afraid of, is travelling.
Right.
You're afraid that you lose your culture. And the same as going to university, really. They weren't too apprehensive about me taking a gap year, but they were afraid that I wouldn't go back to university.
Why would they be afraid? Why do you think Indian parents really strive for their children to go to university?
I think it's a lot about whether they admit it or not. It's about like reputation as well.
Okay.
It's a very big factor in the Asian culture. You want to strive to provide everything you can for your kids, and you want to give them a good education. Mostly what most parents what they didn't have.
Right.
So they want to give everything they didn't have to their kids, and I think that's quite important. And their kids are almost like kind of their pride. So they want to. They want to see themselves in their kids almost.
Yeah. So have you got any friends who will finish at A-level and Indian friends who would not go on to university?
I have actually, yeah.
And what would they do?
They either go into work, most likely work or college.
What kind of work?
Part-time work maybe.
And the rest of the part-time?
Just at home or, wherever. Probably just at home, part-time work or full-time work, wherever they can find really. I've known people that go to college after 16, like leaving before A-level even, so it's quite widespread what people do.
Yeah, yeah. So would that be the British Indians, or do you think they still feel that they have to go to university and get that higher education?
I think it's still a mix really. A lot of people do what they want. It's not about, there's still a sort of like thing where you've got to follow other people, but you can still do what you want. I still think people do what they want. You don't necessarily have to go to university, but I think there is more pressure than there was, maybe 10 years ago.
Tell me about your Fridays and Saturday nights, because I mean, let's talk about Indian culture in that view, in the youth culture. Right. What would you be doing on a typical Friday, Saturday
night? Maybe twice a month go out. Twice a month, maybe even more. I don't really have time to go out. I work as well, part-time.
Oh, right.
So I've got a job, got a job as well, and I go to school. I spend a lot of time with my family as well. I think that's quite important to me. I have,
And would you say that's widespread of the youths today? Would they want to spend their evenings with their parents at home?
Honestly, I don't think so, no. It's almost like, it's quite embarrassing to spend, your Friday nights with your parents. Yeah. But I think it all depends on the relationship you've got with your parents and your family and the way you've been brought up. If you've, been told not to do something like, oh, you can't go clubbing, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, you're more likely to go and do it anyway. Yeah. Whether your parents tell you to do it or, not to do it.
But there's so many Asian clubs and gigs coming up. I know when we were growing up, we used to go to daytime discos, unheard of now, but it's always via the library. Right. So we never told our parents, it was just carrying the books and bringing them home. But that's all changed now, it's all very open and it's accepted.
Yeah, people do tell their parents. Like when I go out, I tell my parents. I mean, I've got nothing to hide from my parents at all. My parents are pretty open about these things, but there still are restrictions on, what I do, what I wear. And they're not completely liberal, my parents, at all. They have restrictions, but I've never sort of stepped out of line, so they've given me a lot of trust. So,
and what about you, Sean? I mean, as far as a man's perspective on this subject is concerned, what is it? Is it different to you?
I think it all depends on your relationship with your parents at home. If they've got that trust in you, like Tara just said, then I think they'd be quite willing to let you go out at night time, come back late. It all depends on trust, really. And if they know what you're doing, and if you're truthful to them, and you tell them where you are, what you're doing.
Why do you think so many clubs and pubs have just come up, the Asian scene in the last 10 to 15 years? Why do you think they have?
I think it's just being recognised a lot more now. Maybe this new generation sort of bringing in a lot more. There's a lot more freedom as well in there. we're sort of going out. I think we're more settled in. When our parents, I know when my parents came here from abroad, they were just settling into the country and getting used to this life, living here. And it's quite hard for them as well. Now I think because we're settled in, we've been born and brought up here, and this is our country now. That's the way I see it. And I think we just fit in a lot more, and we can go and do the things that normal people would.
Okay, well, we'd like to hear a bit more about it, and we will after the break. We'll go to our first break now, but after the break we want to hear from you, your views, your opinions on the youth of today, the British Indians. Which way are we actually going? Are we embracing two cultures and getting the best of both cultures, or is it a new carving, a new society that's now forming, which is quite separate and different to the one that we knew? Well, give us a call after the break. The number is 0871 990 3399. We'd like to hear your views. Thank you. Okay, this earpiece was irritating.
I'm watching it.
Couldn't hear. They were talking on top of it. Amita? No, I took it out. Hello?
It's quick, isn't it?
Can you tell? I can't bloody hear. They're talking away.
I'm going to kill you.
Huh?
You put the pen down.
Yeah, but they're talking in this. I have to take it off. I was listening. Couldn't
I kept looking that way. I looked that way every day, didn't
I can't concentrate because they're talking there.
I looked that way a few times because I wanted to see if.
Everything
No, tell him to use a hand one like that.
I reckon they had a screen there.
Yeah.
call him now.
Just call him in.
What are you going to ask him?
Quickly.
We should get callers now. If we
What?
don't, then I'll come in as just last minute back up or something.
Got some different accents.
But first half is
Okay, we'll talk about drink culture.
Tara, speak a bit up because it's not your fault, but there might be
Put the mic up here, Tara.
That's what I said, but they said to me no.
because we just had a go at them like that while it was going on because we couldn't hear you at first.
No, they're just talking away. I'm getting
How many viewers you got right now?
interference
Do you know?
on this earphone.
How many viewers you got?
It's only an average.
Nay, too much noise there.
Five people is inside.
What? Couldn't they think? I couldn't think myself. Leave it then. Tell them not to bother use it. No, leave. Well, unless they use a handheld, because they're just making it worse. Tell him to use a handheld, not the other mic. Hello, welcome back to Chai with Ritu. We are today debating the issue to do with youths, our youths, the British Indian youths. Are they carving their own identities in this world, in England, here and now, and in Britain, here and now? So what we were discussing was basically youth culture, and we'll go to clubbing and pubbing and things like that. Now, let's just touch on this topic of drink. I know the previous generation, it was tabooed. It was not tabooed for women to drink. You know, it was, reputation was all there, and you couldn't drink. Now, what is it like with the new generation going out to all these, clubs and pubs? It has that philosophy changed that now drink is more acceptable, whether you're a man or a woman? What do you say, Shaunak?
I think it's accepted a lot more in in our Indian community, especially.
As students?
That's as students, yeah. I mean, that is a lot of students that I think a lot that move out as well tend to do that. But as students, I think they get sort of a lot of peer pressure as well to do it.
Right.
And it's about, I think it's about the individual, and when you've got that power to step down and say, no, I'm not going to take this any further, and I'll leave it at that. I think a lot get carried away in doing that. But in terms of the actual family, I think there's a lot more Indian families coming out that do drink, and where not just the kids, but the parents as well.
Right.
So it follows on.
And would youths now drink in front of their parents? Because again, you know, we never did that. We'd get slapped if we did.
When I was younger, actually, I could never imagine it happening, but I've actually seen it happen now, and I think it is a lot more. It's being accepted a lot more amongst our community, and it happens a lot more as well, and it happens a lot.
Yeah. And Tara, what about with the girls?
I don't think it is accepted actually. I think it's really unladylike for a girl to drink and to be, you know, walking, crawling the streets, you know, at midnight or whatever. I think it's parents have got no choice, either because they don't know or because, you know, as Shannon said, their students are living in university, and that's one of the main reasons, you know, going away. Parents don't know. I don't think it is accepted. I think it's still, you know, a taboo.
Oh, right. Even at university?
Not amongst the students.
Yeah.
But if I was to walk in at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, with no house key, and mum's in bed or whatever, my dad's in bed, and I was, you know, drunk or whatever, they would go mad. And
not acceptable.
Never, not acceptable at all.
All right.
Never. Not a chance.
And what about with boyfriends? Again, we were never, I mean, it was frowned upon for any girls especially, and also for boys to have girlfriends or boyfriends pre-marriage. But now, for us, it seems like it's all perfectly normal. It's very much the English culture that you can have boyfriends and girlfriends and marry them or not marry them, it doesn't matter. I mean, has that changed at university at all with the youths?
I would say it has changed in a really big way.
Right.
It's actually accepted now a lot more. There's still some families, some divisions within our community that don't accept it, and it's really frowned upon to do that. And you know, it's just all about arranged marriage for them. But it's being accepted a lot more. But I don't think it's just in Britain. I don't think it's just British Hindus or British Asians. I think it happens a lot back home as well. If you look in India, that culture is actually coming up a lot now, and there's also love marriages happen there as well, a lot more than they did in the past. So it's not just in Britain.
The people from India, and especially from Bombay, think there's a time warp with the people who came here in the 70s and 60s even, and we've sort of stood still in time in our thinking, our mindset, but whereas things seem to have moved much faster in Bombay and Delhi and places like that. And yet at universities here, I don't think there's much difference between a university in England with, you know, Indian students and one in Bombay. Or do you think that they've actually moved on faster than these students here?
I think they're, I'm not sure about faster. I haven't seen the universities, I haven't seen it firsthand, but I would say that it's fairly similar. The life, there's a lot, if you look in especially areas like Bombay, where you've got this whole sort of Bollywood craze starting up now, it's a lot more kicking off, and there's a lot more clubs and bars and pubs opening there. The drinking cultures come up a lot there, especially in Bombay. And so I think it's fairly similar to Britain.
Yeah. And would you call yourselves at university, would you call yourselves a minority group?
I think it depends. Again, it depends on what university you go to, what part of the UK. Personally, from my university, in London, I think we wouldn't be the minority. In fact, at my university, we're probably the majority.
Right.
I think it just depends what area you go to, but it wouldn't be the minority at all anymore.
Okay, let's just talk about education for a while. Again, comparing the youths now to our upbringing, everyone was encouraged to go into sciences, whether you liked it or not, you know, doctors, pharmacists, and then accountants and lawyers. Now, if you talk to a youth, they seem to have everything open to them. Has that changed? Do you still find that your peer group have got influences from their parents to go into a certain field, or do parents say, well, follow your dream?
I think, personally, I think from my point of view, I think this is what I think, back in the days, I think parents probably, I think they listen to their parents a lot more as well.
All right.
There's a bit more sort of, there's a lot more of a rebellious sort of action now amongst our generation.
Do you feel you have to rebel to do something other than the set subjects?
I think some students or some youth would go about that path, but some parents are actually open to it now. As long as you're doing it properly, and it's something that's going to get you somewhere. I think that's what the Indian parents are mainly worried about.
Your views?
I agree with that. I think as long as you're doing something that's worthwhile, that's something that's going to get you somewhere, that's something that's going to secure your future, then it's fine by any means.
Okay, so what about doing a degree in history?
Yeah, I think that's really it. So my brothers, my younger brother, he's decided to do a degree in architecture.
Right.
And my older brother, he's doing computing.
Okay, so what wouldn't be acceptable here and now in your generation?
I don't think anything is really unacceptable, like compared to what it was, say, in the last generation.
Well, a history degree would have been unacceptable in my time.
Exactly.
Because it wasn't leading to anything.
Right, and more acceptable subjects would have been like sciences for yourself, and medicine, or
Law.
yeah.
And law at a push.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a 6-year degree course,
Yeah.
and parents used to
Didn't
think,
want you away for that long.
not just didn't want you away, they thought you'll be too old to get married.
Yeah.
You know, it was that kind of thinking. And whereas now it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
I think the history, the whole topic about doing a history degree, back in the days, sort of in the last generation, it wouldn't be accepted at all. Now I think Tara's saying it is accepted. I think that's only amongst some families.
Right, you think that
That's
some
right,
would still say no to it.
That's right.
Okay, we have a caller. Hello, welcome to Chai with Ritu.
Hi there, yeah. I wanted to contribute something into your discussion.
Yes, welcome. And who's calling?
My name.
Hello, Aman.
Hi,
Welcome to
hi
the
there.
show.
Yeah, I'm calling from Slough.
Okay.
Could I make a point?
Yes, please do.
Right, with regards to what you said earlier on.
Yeah.
Well, basically, I'm a regular clubber. I go all the time. I go to clubs nearly every weekend.
In Slough?
Around Slough, central London, you know how it is. There's
Yes.
loads around.
Okay.
Like you said, there are loads of Asian clubs.
Yeah, and more and more opening.
More, yeah, loads.
Yeah.
What I was basically going to say is, that every club I've been to around central London on a typical Friday night is full of Asians. There are loads and loads of Asians.
And why would you think that is?
Well, the thing is, there's not enough for Asians to do. Asians are being influenced, by, I think, like, black people, white people, you know, all sorts of people,
Yeah.
And, like, I think they just want to be like them, if you see what I mean.
All right, they want to be like
They want to be black. Like, for example, I went out, I went Oceania, it's just this one club. I went to Oceania,
Okay.
And I see this Asian boy walking with his trousers up to his knees.
All right,
Now,
okay.
Okay, I know black people do that,
Yeah. So do you think Asians want to copy the black Americans?
I think this is why I think they're losing their identity, if you see what I mean. Because they're trying to become some people they're not.
They're not.
All they listen to is like 50 Cent, Eminem, you know, and like they go to clubs, they only dance to the sort of American R&B music. I mean, they have no interest in Bhangra music or anything like that. And I'm thinking to myself, so what part of them actually makes them Indian?
Exactly.
Other than their name and maybe like their grandparents.
Exactly. Yeah. What does make them Indian? Do they speak the language?
Well, most of them probably don't even speak the language.
Well, let's put it to our panel here. What's your first language on it?
Mine's Gujarati.
Okay, and yours?
Punjabi.
Punjabi. Is that your first language, or is English your first language?
English is...
I'd say for me, Gujarati, because when I was born, that's the language my grandparents and my parents spoke to me. And so that's the first one I learned.
Up to about 7 years old.
And now?
My first English is now my first language.
And yours?
Same in English, that's right.
And what was it of your parents?
Sorry?
What would your parents' first language have been?
Okay, theirs would have been Gujarati as well.
And yours?
Mine would have been English.
Your parents?
No, my parents are Punjabi, yeah.
Yeah, so you see the change already, don't you?
Yeah, and what my point is, what will happen to our kids and our kids' kids?
Well, what will happen to them? What will they speak?
By the looks of by the trend of what's happening, we're slowly losing it.
Okay,
I mean, regardless of language, let's even just talk on a more fundamental level like music and things like that.
Okay.
Already there's lack of interest. What will happen to our kids and our kids' kids?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. When we were growing up, and again, I can only compare it to my own experience, we used to listen to either pure Hindi music, pure Punjabi music, or pure English music, and we knew all three very well. Now, that purity seems to have gone, and like you say, it's a mix of Bhangra with R&B, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
So where is the purity of any of that gone? And what do you think is going to happen in the future then?
Well, by the looks of things, it looks like that. There's not much industry for Bhangra music or any other Hindi music for that sort.
Yeah.
Really, I mean the Asian industry, music industry, which I'm quite involved in. I promote gigs and things around Slough and that.
All right, okay.
I think it's slowly going to, even though we're seeing a surge and an increase at the moment, I reckon the lack of interest in actual Bhangra gigs, like you said, you go to these daytimes and stuff, I think they're going to slowly decrease, and there'll be a time when I think even Bhangra won't even be around here. So
you think the next generation won't have Bhangra music?
Well,
unthinkable.
It's all going to be mixed with R&B and things like that, not traditional, not the traditional type you used to see.
Yeah.
And I like the traditional type, but it's not going to carry on.
So what do you think we should do about it?
Well, you need to build up, I think, some awareness.
Okay, and how do we build up the awareness?
Well,
Shall we put it to our panel, Shona?
Yeah, maybe these artists themselves could start reverting back to their traditional type of music, not mixing it with R&B, you know, keeping the identity in music itself, keeping it traditional, and, you know, not making it mixed with R&B, not, you know, changing the sort of style.
But don't you think the artists only really perform to what's going to sell in any event? That's what they're there for. And if they find there's an audience that they can sell this music to, they will perform it.
Yeah, possible. But like you said, people have they change their type of music very frequently.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're into this sort of music, sometimes you're into a different type of music. And I think the same could apply with Bhangra music and other sorts of Asian music.
Right, so you think the artist should take responsibility?
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that call, Evan.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay, well, if you have any views on the subject, please call 0871 990 3399. I'm sure you're dying to pick up the phone and talk to us, because this is a subject that affects everyone. You've all been a youth at some stage. You've either got youths at home or have something to do with them. So you must have a view on this subject, and we'd like to hear from you. And we will hear from you just after the next break. Thank you very much, and see you on the other side. We're having a discussion about our youth today, and our previous caller made quite good points that he wanted addressing, and we had to stop for the break. So now we're back from the break. I want to do two things. I want to introduce our next youth here today. Tara has left us and replaced us with Varun. Varun Barnott is here, and he's going to discuss his life as a British Indian youth in a minute. Welcome to the show, Varun.
Hi.
Hello. And Shaunak, you wanted to just to address that caller, because he made some quite valid points. He said the music is now no longer pure in nature, it's becoming a fusion. He said that the youth today are walking around with their trousers down to their knees. Who do they think they are?
Sure, I just want to first say to Aman, that was really good, a few really good few points that he made.
Yeah.
Especially about the music, where he was talking about how the artist should sort of promote traditional music again.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the point about it not being sort of, upbeat and sort of...
sellable.
Yeah, sellable to, marketable to the to people our age.
Yeah.
But I think the artists are such... you look at big artist names, especially amongst Asian artists in Britain. You've got people like Jay Sean, Raghav, and people
what
like that.
What are they actually doing? I mean, apart from...
Yeah, I think that they can be used in such better ways.
Yeah.
At the moment, they're being used that they go to gigs and raves, and they do sing there and they perform, and everyone's entertained.
Yeah.
But there's a point where they're so powerful as individuals, because there's so many fans, and whatever they say, the fans believe.
I think they
Varun,
act as role models for young people.
Yeah.
That's what you'll find. Lots of
But
young
are they good role models?
In some senses, yes. But then when you get onto things like clubs and gigs and the rest of it, they're a little bit, they tend to be a little bit negative.
Right, in what way?
Especially, it's just what they promote, the events.
Okay.
I know we've already talked about it a little bit in the show, but
Yeah.
just about what clubs and gigs they promote.
Yeah.
For example, underage alcohol consumption, a lot of people tend to do that, and a lot of people tend to fall victim to it without even realising, because they get led in by their peer groups.
But do you think the artists promote that? I mean, we're talking about the role models being, the singers. Are they doing enough as role models? Are there enough role
I think
models?
they're not. I mean, they are doing a good job up to a certain extent, like Varun just said.
Yeah.
There's a lot more they could do. As I said before, they're such powerful people. They've got so many fans, and what they say, the fans believe. So they could actually be promoting so many other things as well as doing their music.
Okay, if they were listening now, what would you say to them? What would you want them to do for the British youth?
I think especially for British Asian youth,
Yeah.
I think there's so much they can do in terms of promoting the culture.
Okay, tell them. I mean, they're listening.
Sure, yeah, I think they could promote the culture in such a way that, where people, they're bringing it back, bringing the traditions back,
Right.
The roots, because they know about that. They're not, they're all our age. Everyone knows about, our tradition and roots, the culture.
Yeah.
And they can bring that back so easily, and because they're so powerful, as I said, people will actually listen to it, and they will follow that.
Yeah. What do you think, Varun?
I think they're very, very powerful,
Yeah.
no doubt about it.
More than they realise?
More than they realise, but
Yeah.
I think they could be making a little bit more proactive use of their power. I think in their music, the music's fine. You get people like Juggy D, and they are Ponga at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and people really do enjoy their songs. It's just when they get up on stage and gigs and the rest of it, it's what they might encourage, and it's also the whole sort of environment that you get into, and all of a sudden it turns into a very sort of sleazy environment.
And you don't like that?
Where there's a mixture of boys and girls, and obviously they're out looking for each other, and it's just things like that, I think.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest problems, Varun, that face youths nowadays?
I think one of them is what we talk about, the Redbridge Youth Council, is lack of things to do.
Okay.
You'll find that that's one of the root causes of everything, or a lot of things in that. People say, oh, we need to go to youth clubs, and why doesn't the government give us more funding for this and that? But at the end of the day, what young people don't realise is that it's their responsibility to make sure that they don't get bored and are out there doing something creative, such as the project that I'm working on and things like that.
What is the project you're working on?
Well, the project that we're working on, it's absolutely an amazing project. It's called Flavours of the Future. It's a multicultural show in Kenneth Moore Theatre in Ilford, London Borough of Redbridge.
Okay.
And it's basically, we're taking like 5 young people or more from about 21 schools all the way around the borough, and we're just fusing them all together in unity to put on an amazing show celebrating youth culture. All right?
And what will you be promoting? What is youth culture? What are you promoting in the show?
Well, youth culture, there's the positives and negatives, and we're actually going to exhibit both of them, like a fusion of both. And then there's also like the
What is it?
multicultural side.
An evening play, is it?
It's a variety show, so
right,
it's going to be crazy. It's going to be off the wall. There's going to be like dancers coming in here, and then graffiti artists and beatboxers and instrumentals and everything. It's going to be wicked. Yeah,
All right.
really good.
Quite passionate about it.
Very much, and it's all in favour of a good cause.
But you're saying the problems that are surrounding the youths is there isn't enough to do, but there seems to be more than there was when we were growing up.
True.
Again, I harken back to our own experience. We had the cinema, we had family sort of dinners and things. We didn't have half as much entertainment as there is now with the theatre. You've got films, you've got shows, you've got gigs. I mean, and if you still find that you're still bored and there isn't enough to do, well, what more can be done for the youths?
Yeah.
I think I agree with you there. There's not, there's so much more now that we can do. There's so many places we can go out and explore and just have fun, also learn as well. But
Exactly.
it's what's what seems sort of fun to the students at the moment. And I think there's a lot of things out there that they don't find fun anymore.
Yeah.
That they just don't want to do it. It's not sort of
What, been there, done it?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's sort of the attitude they've got. Done that ages ago, or you don't do that. And I think a lot of it's because of peer pressure, like you mentioned before.
Yeah.
It's what's cool and what's not.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't
What
seem
about
cool,
these
then they won't
shisha
do
bars? They seem to be coming up everywhere.
Yeah, because actually, in regards to shisha,
Yes.
I think the problem is that what they don't realise is that young people are a direct reflection of the peer group they associate themselves with. So, in other words, if they go out to a shisha bar or something, even with a group of friends, even if they don't intend to, if they're around them, their friends, and they're doing shisha, then they would actually feel like they must be doing it in order to fit in with them and just be accepted by them. And that's one of the biggest problems. What you find is young people, as they're growing up, they're still modelling themselves. They're still trying to find the true person who they are. They're developing their character, their opinions on things. They're developing their own personal philosophy.
Yeah.
And so, as a result, they can be easily misled into things like drugs, alcohol, shisha, all these kind of different things.
And do you find the youth are now?
Sorry?
Do you find the youth at university now are more susceptible to these kind of things?
I
like
think they
drugs
are.
and
I totally agree
alcohol?
with Varun. It's throughout your childhood, when you're growing up, in your teen years, and when you're a youth, you're just modelling the whole time. You're always looking at sort of role models. You keep looking at different people, and you're gonna copy like different skills and different things from all of them, and put that into you. It's called modelling, and they keep doing it.
Yeah.
But it's about what do you model?
Okay.
Are you modelling good behaviour or bad behaviour? And I think going to shisha bars and pubs and clubs and bars, some people may agree with it, some people don't. I think it's about what you do there as well. It's not about just if you go there, you're not a bad person.
Yeah.
I think it's when you go there, how do you go about doing it? If you're going there and you're sort of alcoholic and you're an addict, and you let that control your life,
yeah.
you let that control your life, or you let smoking or drugs control your life, then there's a problem there.
Yeah, and do you find, I mean, I'll just tell you again my experience as a criminal lawyer. Since I started practicing 20 years or so ago, just under, there were hardly any Indians in court for anything. And now places like Ealing, Magistrates Court, Acton, Southall, I mean obviously there are Indian areas anyway, even Harrow and Uxbridge, you find there's more and more Indians now who are actually appearing before the court. Do you think there is an increase in crime as well for the youths today?
I think there is, because again it's about modelling. They're modelling the bad behaviour, and they're trying to do things because they'll make them look cool, which is what they think it makes them look cool, but actually they'll realise when they get to court that it wasn't the right thing to do.
Are they still worried about reputation like our parents were? I mean, if we were ever caught doing anything, reputation came first and then what you did.
I think young people, they're very concerned, and it's very dear to their heart about this street rep, their street reputation. They think that their credibility on their street must be very high, and that involves doing antisocial things, like you could say, as we've been talking about, drugs, alcohol, and the rest of it. They do that to be cool, to fit in. It's different things like that.
Would they also have more money to do it? Again, now youth seem to, come from families where they've got more money than perhaps they would have had before. So is money now no longer a problem?
I would say it's not really a problem for young people. I think young people are actually becoming a lot more enterprising nowadays, not necessarily in the best ways, but they've got the business minds about them. And the other thing is part-time jobs, something which a lot of young people do. And in my opinion, I think young people are absolutely incredible when it comes to prioritising between part-time jobs and their education, social life, all that kind of thing.
So why, if money is not a problem now, because a lot of families come from, a lot of children, come from families which are moderately stable, and money is not an issue, and now there's the affluent society as well, the business society, but yet the children still go to university. Why do they still go?
I think it's for the experience. The whole university, I think I'm sure everyone would agree with me, it's a big experience. And it literally takes you from being a child to proper adult. You learn so much.
To a man experience.
That's right, yeah, and you experience so much, and you learn so much, you meet so many different people, and it's a really big learning experience, I think, more than actually getting the actual degree. You learn so many life skills there.
Are they pressurised to study while they're at uni?
I think they are pressurised, that's right. There's a lot of pressure. I think it depends where you look at it from, and what sort of background you're from as well.
Yeah.
But I know some people that just go to university just for the experience. They're not bothered what degree they do. But some want to go there because they need that specialist skill or that sort of degree behind them, a specialist qualification to get into that job that they want afterwards.
Is that hunger and drive still there?
I think it is, definitely. If you look at some of the A-level results that have come up, especially if you look, I think I could speak from the Redbridge community, from the Redbridge Hindu community where I come from.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the grades that have come out in A-levels to go into university, they're just absolutely outstanding. There's students coming out with straight A's now.
What you find is that young people are very, very dynamic today. Much more dynamic than they've ever been in the past.
Really?
Yeah, because it's true. Because one of the things that happens is that they have their social lives, as we've been talking about. They do a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They're amazing at balancing with their academics. They may go out to clubs and go out with their friends and etc. But it's also those people who come out with A stars and A's at the same time. They're really good at time management. And
so where do they get those skills from?
I would say
They must come from somewhere.
Yes, it's a tricky question. I think it's something that they learn of other people, like other young people. I think nowadays we've come to a stage where everyone's pushing the other person along. And when we say peer pressure, we usually think a bad thing, but sometimes it's actually a good thing, especially in school when you're in competition with your friends to do well. But you're also in competition to have a great social life as well. So when you so in other words, this is how the balance comes about.
I really do agree with Varun on that point where students are really prioritising the right way, a lot of them.
Do you think the parents help at all?
I think they do sometimes. They've got a really big say in it. But then it's a question of how are you prioritising? Are you prioritising the right things? I think that's the other sort of side to it, the negative side.
Yeah, but Indian parents have always been accused of pressurising their kids to study and study and study, and because of the painful experiences I think one generation had when they first came here, and that painful experience of being teachers and qualified people and then working in factories. They didn't want that for the next generation, and that's where the whole mindset was of achieving. Now with this next generation, where is that sense of achievement coming from? Is it coming from within, or you think it's still coming from competitive environments, or is it still coming from the parents saying, no, I don't want you to go down the same route?
From all angles, literally. The parents do put a lot of pressure on it, and I think that's a lot. They can, if they're not careful, they can actually push their own kids away by doing that. But the kids need to learn, the students need to learn that they're doing it out of love, because they don't want them to face the hardships that they faced when they came here and when they were labourers and working in factories. But I think there's a lot of competitive edge as well amongst our generation.
With parents, they always want the best for their kids. It's always been the
well,
way
no
forward.
matter what, whether they're Indian or any religion, any colour, any creed.
Yeah, and it's been the case for many, many years.
Yeah,
they want the best for the kids. But the problem is that sometimes they get a bit carried away, and then they start pushing their kids, as Shanak said, they're pushing them away, especially when it comes to being a doctor. They want their kids to become doctors, and they could be pushing their kids away from them.
They've always wanted doctors.
They've always wanted doctors.
That's right.
I think times are changing now.
Accountants.
Yeah.
Well, we'd like to hear from you after our next break. The number is 0871 990 3399, and we are discussing our youth today. Are they carving their own identities as British citizens? Are they getting any kind of peer pressure which is actually forcing them to be the people they are? But whatever they are, it's your opinion that counts. So give us a call after the break. See you soon. youths of today. Very interesting topic because there's so much to discuss, and I'm not sure if we can do it in an hour that we have. We might have to carry on in another day, another conversation. But we are really just discussing whether the British youth today are doing justice to themselves. Are they actually carving out a future which will be brilliant and dynamic, as our guest has said here today, and will do justice to the next generation? Well, we were talking about this subject. Warren, any other views that you have on the subject?
I think there's negatives and there's positives,
Right.
as you said. Negatives, well, not necessarily negatives, but sort of bad things you could say, is that young people... Okay,
I'm sorry,
we have a phone call.
interrupted. Hello, who's calling Chai with Ritu?
Hi, my name's Adil,
Hello, Bill.
and I want to talk to Warren about his show thing that he mentioned.
Oh yes, he
I
mentioned
want
it.
to know if there's any way that we could get involved or where I can get more information about it.
Okay, do you need more information on
Yeah,
the show?
you've called exactly the right time. We do have a website. It's www.theshow.subbreed.co.uk.
Okay.
And you can get in touch with all of us if you want to join the project, or even if it's just for funding or support. If you want to join in any way or form, do climb aboard. There's over 100 people working on the project, so it's huge right now.
So how many people are organising the show? Is it just you?
No, there's 9 dynamic, really great youths, really proactive, going out there, role models for the future. You know, we've got Chirag, we've got Nilesh, we've got Andy, we've got Vivek, we've got Kapish, we've got Aarti, Shivani, all of them, they're all doing an amazing job, so it's really good.
So what kind of thing can I do if I wanted to perform in the show then?
Is anything, it's not necessarily Asian in any way, it's multicultural, so anything from singing, dancing, acting, role models, basically just fashion shows, all that kind of thing.
Okay, what we'll do to assist, if you go onto the www.chaiwithritu.com website, we will put this website on there so that you can access it from there, and any of our viewers can as well. Okay, thank you very much for calling.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you. So you're doing quite a good job in actually promoting the whole scene, which is good. Now, Shaunak, how do you see the future of the Hindu Forum that you're involved in so actively? Do you see it growing over the years?
I do see it growing. I mean, it's grown over time. We've now got over about 25 affiliated chapters, so that's 25 Hindu societies across the country that have affiliated with us. So it's growing, you know, every year.
And do you actually put on any religious functions at all?
We do, yeah. We've at chapter level we have so many different pujas that we have throughout the year, and just different rituals. They have a holy event and that sort of thing. So they actually, the Goba we had recently in London, they have the Goba and they actually talk about it as well and explain what's the purpose of it and why it's so important. So there's a religious aspect behind all the events we have, and it's actually shown across as well.
Okay, and it's a national organisation,
That's
is it?
right, yeah.
All right. And how many members in total?
We've actually got over about 5,000 members.
5,000?
That's right.
Is that current students?
That's current students and alumni as well.
Sorry, and?
And alumni. So we have NHSF alumni, people who have been members and now graduated and now working.
Oh, right. So do they support it?
They support it fully, yeah, they're still there.
And where do you get your funding from?
As I mentioned before, we don't have sort of regular income of funds.
Yeah, so
We don't do events to generate money. So we look for sponsorship and funding from individuals.
Okay. Now, people who would come to your society, would they also be members of the mainstream societies, or are there some people who wouldn't actually want to be affiliated to the, a Hindu society, and would rather remain sort of totally non-committal on any society?
But there are a lot of students that go to university and they don't want anything to do with the Hindu society. They finally think we finally got away from home, we're finally away from that.
Yeah.
But there's, on the other hand, there's so many that want to be part of it. When they hear about it, they want to be part of the events, when they want to be part of the organising, they want to be there. And we encourage them, go and sign up to other societies, don't just come to the Hindu society. There's so much more out there, so go out there and explore, learn as well. It's all about a sort of learning experience.
Post-university, do people find that they won't apply to certain jobs or certain companies because they might be refused to that? Is that still current?
I think
that
so, on
thinking?
your personal, whatever you set as a personal limitation.
Right.
We've had from NHSF, from National Hindu Students Forum, we've had so many students who have graduated and they've gone out there and they've got the most amazing jobs. They've been working for companies such as PwC, Deloitte, really big companies like that. So it's not true. I think they can go out there and get those jobs.
Well, now you hear of more and more youths wanting to go into the big firms, and nothing seems to be stopping them. So I think that is become a myth, really, that they can't apply because they won't get in. And that certainly was a mindset and thinking before, but has it changed now? Do you think, Varun?
I think, yeah, it has changed. Changed dramatically, actually. Nowadays, it's very, very sort of competitive. People want to get into the top places, especially young British Asians. They really want to get up there.
Okay, good. Any final comments from either of you?
I will actually just say to all the students out there as well, just be in touch with the culture, and if you are interested in National Hindi Students Forum, come along, contact us. It's nhsf.org.uk, and just get in touch. There's so many events like this. Join as many societies as you can. Just learn.
Good.
I think a message to take home to all the youths is that the aim of life, especially as a youngster, is not to go through life, but to grow through life.
Excellent.
And so there's something that I want the young people to take home, all the viewers.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that. And my view on that is there are stories that actually give you, a sense of the past, but that past is what makes the present, and that present actually opens the doors to a very imaginative future. So our future lies with all of you, and it can be as big as your imagination. It can be limited by nothing, because that's where we've come from past, present and future. And that's the message really of the youth today. I think you're all doing a fantastic job, and it's so good to see that you're keeping both cultures, and it's not that it's one or the other, it's actually a combination. The fabric that you've now produced is so rich in itself that it brings a richness in you as youths. So well done for that. Now next week, by next week, I want to hear from you. If you could go onto the website, which is www.chaiwithritu.com. I want to hear from you if you have any special talent, any special awards that you want to share with our viewers. It's so important to showcase the positivity of the British Indians. So go onto the website, www.chaiwithritu.com. Tell me what it is you want to share, and then I will tell you where to send your DVDs of your singing, your dancing, your rapping, whatever you've done, your awards that you've won. Send me a DVD so I can showcase it, and you can share it with all our viewers, the big, big MATV family. Well, thank you so much for viewing Chai with Ritu, and we will see you next week, where we'll be talking about faith schools. Are they really necessary? See you then. Hold. Sip your chai.
That's water.